Welcome to Underrated to Unstoppable, the podcast where we explore the journey to enoughness. I'm your host, Charlene Wheeless. Today's conversation is with Greg Williams, known as the master negotiator and body language expert. Greg has spent over 3 decades teaching people how to read the unspoken signals in every interaction and use them to their advantage. In this episode, we dive deep into the fascinating world of body language and negotiation. You'll learn why the person asking questions is actually controlling the conversation, how to spot when someone's gestures don't match their words, and the powerful negotiation tactics Greg learned watching his mother at a car dealership when he was just a teenager. Despite being told his entire life that he was stupid and would never amount to anything, he's now completing his doctorate. His answer to when he realized he was enough is both profound and practical. "I'm enough for right now," is what he said. It's a reminder that self-worth isn't a destination, it's a daily choice. This is a masterclass in reading people, controlling your mindset, and never letting others define your worth. Let's get to it. So let's talk about body language, right? Yeah, I mean, we always hear, and I'm not going to get the stat right, but that's okay because I know you know the stat. But we know that a majority of communication is really nonverbal, right? And particularly as coaches, one of the reasons why we need to see our clients is because they may be saying something, but how they say it or the facial expression, or their body language changes, and that gives us clues as to what's really going on. So talk to us about, I mean, you're the expert on body language and negotiation, which we'll talk about, but let's start with the body language piece.
Okay. Well, let's assume that your statement is somewhat accurate about
Mhm.
coaches needing to see people when they're speaking.
Mhm.
Yes, you have another dimension that's added to the communication and conversation when you're literally able to see someone, but you can see what they say when you can't see them also.
Oh,
Now,
tell
you may
me,
have
tell me about
noted.
this, Greg. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, yes, exactly. Because in this particular case, you may have noticed that I altered the pace of my speech ever so slightly. Now, that's still communicating from a verbal, nonverbal perspective. And even that little nuance gives insight into the fact that a person has altered their normal flow. The
Mhm.
question then becomes, why? And the answer to that can be a multitude of answers. The thing is, it was at that moment, something you said, you did,
Right.
they did, that altered their perspective. And that's what you hone in on. Now,
Mhm.
let's delve deeper into the body language aspect when you can physically see someone. What
Mhm.
I've observed just thus far.
Oh no,
No, no. Hey, it's all good. It's all
oh
good. And by the way, I broke my glasses, so if they snap off
no.
while we're talking, I have another pair right here for
Oh,
sure.
okay.
I
Okay.
use them when I'm on webinars and things of that
Uh-huh.
nature. But nevertheless, I noticed the usage of your hands as you were speaking and the gestures and things of that nature. Your gestures via your hands were aligned with your words, meaning they were synchronized. So, for example, if someone says, I do believe we can do that. Now, that's hesitation right there. You
Right.
can see it. As
Yeah.
opposed to, I do believe we can do that. Now, I always tell people when someone is speaking,
Mhm.
number one, notice the tonality, notice the gestures that they make as they're doing so, because if the gestures are out of alignment with the words, the verbiage that the person is actually using to communicate,
Mhm.
something's off with the person. Either their
Yeah.
thought process is not aligned, and therefore it would behoove you to delve a little deeper to
Mhm.
find out what's really occurring in that person's mind per their thought process.
Mhm.
Because once again, if someone says, yes, we can do that. Now you see me
Uh,
shaking my head saying
right.
no.
Right.
Okay, those gestures are out of alignment with one another unless
Mhm.
someone uses that gesture to indicate yes, which then goes to the value of understanding someone's baseline per how they utilize their
Right.
gestures before you make an assessment as to how they're using it in any particular situation. Now, we'll delve a lot deeper, but
Mhm.
you control the time, and I'll
Yeah.
control whatever insights you ask about.
Yeah, so I think kind of, being able to recognize people's tells, right? If it's somebody that you're dealing with often. And, we've all been in those situations and all learned in meetings that when you're talking and you're expressing an idea or, hey, let's do something, and someone's nodding, not to misread that as agreement, right? Because they may just be saying, I'm listening to you. I hear you, right? But how do we determine that when it's someone that we just met, right? Or someone that we don't interact with often. So we don't really know their tells, right? So what's the quick fix for it, I guess?
You use a baseline of
Uh,
what is normal per how people use gestures in that particular environment. And you always have to have something to compare against. So
okay.
if you've just met the individual, you use the baseline that you have for how others have interacted in that particular environment. And then you note the differences if there are any. For example, I'm going to ask you as you communicate further for the next, let's say, 5 minutes,
Mhm.
not to use your hands at all while you're speaking. Okay.
I didn't know this was going to be a quiz on me the whole time,
Oh,
but
no, no,
I'm
no,
your
no.
experiment. But no, that's okay. That's okay. I'm here for
No,
it. I'm here for it.
and it's not. It's just an interactive opportunity for those that view this to actually see more visually exactly what I'm saying. We
Okay.
naturally use our hand gestures when we speak
Hmm.
because it adds additional value to our thought process, to our inner thought process.
Hmm.
So, by you not utilizing your hands, it's going to alter the way you present yourself. Now,
Ah.
I once again say that to say, I've already established the baseline for how you use your hands, and now I'll do so
Mhm.
as we communicate in a normal, flowing environment, how you may alter things. And that's what you do when you first meet someone. So
Okay.
again, you establish the baseline or
Hmm.
that of others that would be in a similar environment based on even
Hmm.
the culture that you're in. And
Right.
then you then assess to what degree things change when they change. Because if I'm speaking at this pace right now, and you ask me a question and I start speaking a little bit faster, again, I may sound more confusing, and you see the ums and the uhs and so forth and
Uh,
so on coming out of my mouth at this particular time. It's because I'm out of the rhythm of the natural thought
okay.
process that I would normally engage.
So how do we, I want to think about the fact that, men and women communicate differently, right? And there's, again, statistics are not my thing today. So, but, it's something like, women use 3,000 words a day and men use five. I mean, I'm being facetious there, but you get my point.
Hmm. Hmm.
So how do we determine some things, for example, typically with women, and I'm making generalizations, but we get excited about something. We can be expressive. The pitch of our voices may go up, and we may start speaking faster. And I've read somewhere that men read that in the business setting as out of control, right? They start to say, "Oh, she doesn't have control anymore. She's emotional." Right? When it's really, no, I'm just passionate about my idea. Right. So how do we, I don't know if the word is combat that or how do we address that? And by the way, it is really difficult for me to not talk with my hands. So I'm like holding my coffee cup so I don't bring it up.
I was noting the fact that you're not using your hands and you're still very succinct.
Mhm.
Which, well, we'll delve into that a little bit
Yeah.
more, but let me address the question that you just asked a moment ago. Um, when you're reading body language, don't make, I suggest people never make blanket statements
Okay.
because now the negotiation aspect comes in.
Hmm.
Because you still are negotiating with someone, even in a natural conversation.
Okay.
You want it to flow in a particular manner. They want it to flow in a particular manner. What you say influences them. What they say influences you, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So again, when we're talking about men and women and the gestures or the pace at which they speak and to what degree they may exhibit anxiety or exhilaration while they're
Right.
speaking,
Mhm.
we need to note people as individuals. Yes, you can calculate based on guidelines, baselines, etc., what a person will be like. And
Mhm.
then again, every individual is different, and thus you must take into account the differences that they will use to project their inner mannerisms,
Mhm.
their inner thoughts, their inner inhibitions, even. So
Oh,
when
okay.
when a man and boy oh boy, I raised two daughters.
That's so
And
you know.
yeah, yeah, and I raised them to be God-fearing, number one, and number two, not to take, excuse the expression, stuff. I was going to use a
Right.
different word, but
Yeah, that's
nevertheless,
okay. We curse on this show. You're good.
and I don't curse, but that's okay. But nevertheless, I've raised them in that manner, and in the case of where a man is sometimes trying to use the fact that, oh, wow, she gets excited about that. They're literally trying to control that woman's projection of her demeanor. That's all they're,
Right.
in a lot of cases, that's all they're doing. And some men
Mhm.
are unaware of the fact that they're doing so.
Right.
Then, if a woman addresses the man and say, well, look, I'm just being expressive, then
Mhm.
all of a sudden they try yet a different tactic to control her by saying, oh boy, there she goes again. You know,
Ah,
and
uh,
all she's doing is standing up for herself, which is
right.
what I suggest people in general do. If
Right.
something does not feel right for them, or they're in an environment where others are not as respectful about them as
Hmm.
they would wish others to be, speak up. Do
Right.
not let things go unnoticed, and do not allow yourself to be unheard in the manner that you wish to represent yourself. Because again, my motto is you're always negotiating. And the way you allow people to interact with you today will influence the way they will interact with you tomorrow.
Yeah, so I taught my girls primarily I used this when they started dating, and then when they went into the work world, I said the same thing to them. I said, remember that every day you are teaching people how to treat you. And so if you let them get away with something that's disrespectful, then they're going to think that it's okay to do that all the time.
Hmm.
Right.
Exactly.
So let's talk about, since it's so related, let's talk about negotiation because my husband says that I am the worst negotiator that he's ever met. Right. And so because I tend to, not necessarily in business, but I tend to negotiate on emotion, which is probably the number one thing to not do. Right. So tell me a bit about good negotiation, or I don't know, maybe it's better to talk about bad negotiators, right?
Okay. Now, I will, and just remind me of the question, but let me ask you a
Yeah.
question now. I noticed you started using hand gestures
Right.
again.
Because you
Okay.
said 5 minutes. You said five
Okay.
minutes.
And that was my question. How did you feel during the time when you did not use any hand gestures?
Well, I felt constricted for one, because I tend to be expressive. And so I felt that I had to make up for not using my hands by leaning in, by using my head, because I'm just expressive and I'm excitable, although people don't think I am, but I'm excitable. So
Mhm.
I had to get my enthusiasm across another way, you know.
And that's the highlight right there.
Uh-huh.
When people will alter the gestures that they normally use to communicate, to express themselves, they will do something to compensate for it. And
Mhm.
that's yet something else that one can observe to understand how the body language has altered and what caused it to alter. Okay.
Okay.
Now,
Okay.
anyway, so that's the end of that one. Now,
Okay.
paraphrase the question again,
Well,
because
it was.
here, oh, by the way, I'm sorry. You used the gesture too when you said, "My husband thinks
Because he
I am
does.
the wor-" Yeah, that is a very, very strong gesture. The pointing gesture, it
Uh-huh.
emphasizes how deeply someone truly feels about what it is that they're saying at that particular moment, and you conveyed it both through your body language and your verbiage. Um, anyway, emotions.
Right.
One must always, or I suggest,
Hmm.
one always control their emotions in a negotiation because
Right.
you're giving away additional insights per the way you're thinking. You're
Hmm.
giving away additional thoughts about what you might do next based on the emotions you're displaying. So I could really sit here with you. Go ahead, ask your question.
No, 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 no. I'm processing.
Okay. So if by chance I chose in a negotiation to alter someone's perspective of the emotions I have,
Mhm.
now, since I know a lot about body
Right.
language, I could really just, fake sadness,
Mhm.
disappointment, or something of that nature. And I'm conveying an emotion through those
Right.
gestures. When in reality, I could be happy as pie on the inside. But in that particular case, I would be using it as a ploy in a negotiation.
Ah,
So
okay.
that's another reason why not only is body language very important
Mhm.
in negotiations, but at the same time, why it's important for negotiators to understand what may trigger a particular reaction to discern to what degree it has
Mhm.
been feigned, and if so, for what purpose, or if it's real.
Ah. Well, how do you tell the difference?
Look at what you just did. You said,
I
how
said,
do you
how
tell the
do
difference? Like, wow, how do you tell the difference? You can circle back
Uh-huh.
to you could paraphrase the question and circle
Uh-huh.
back. So
Oh,
hypothetically, you and I are talking about let's use easy numbers, a deal of where you want 1,000
hmm.
of whatever,
Right.
and I'm willing to offer 500 of whatever. Okay, so
Hmm.
that's the scenario. So you and I are talking, and you want 1,000, and you say you want 1,000. No, I want 1,000. You want 500. Let's switch it
Okay.
around. Okay,
Okay.
and I say something along the lines of, "Oh, Charlene, I tell you what, I could probably do 1,250,"
Hmm.
and you say 1,250. And I go, 1,250. Now, my body language hasn't really changed at that particular point, right?
Right.
But
Uh-huh.
instead, same scenario. Now, I noticed I said 1,500 is what we're
Right.
really looking for, but we're
Right.
negotiating because I'm going to go for a little bit more so I could ease down
Uh,
and let you feel as though you
ah,
won something also. So
okay.
anyway, um, instead, I say, you know, I can probably do 1,250. Now,
Mhm.
you noticed I leaned in.
I did.
With
Yeah.
a, yeah, exactly.
Uh-huh.
And your response is 1,250, and I'll tell you why in a moment you repeat that same offer.
Okay.
And you say 1,250, and I go, well, um, is that your best offer or something of that nature? I backed away this time,
Right.
which says I'm literally moving away from the offer that I have on the table at that moment. Okay. So now how do you paraphrase that? So you come back and you could repeat again,
Uh-huh.
best offer, and
Okay.
then watch my body language. And
Oh
that's
my
how you
goodness.
can you assess, that's how you can assess to what degree someone is considering the offer, reframing the offer, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now, why do you repeat the same thing that I've said? I could do 1,250 and you say 1,250?
1250. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And oh wow. Oh, I love the gesture you just admitted. You were 1,250? Like, so type
Thinking
of
I'm worth
thing.
more than that.
Yeah, yes, yes. And at the same time, you're repeating it because you're not giving me anything to negotiate with at that point. What you're saying is repeat yourself, which means by the way, the person that's speaking is the person that's controlling the flow of the negotiation at that particular point in time. So
Okay.
by in this case, you just repeating what I've said, you're posing the question in the form of whatever statement that you make,
Mm-hmm.
1,250. And so again, let me rephrase that. The person that's asking questions in a negotiation is the person that's actually controlling the flow of it. Why? Because that individual is getting information that they can use to reposition their offer, the flow of the negotiation, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. If you had said instead of 1,250, um, Greg, I can do 750.
Hmm.
And that's the most I can do.
Right.
And now you've given me some additional information that had you
Right.
just said 1250, I would have nothing to go with.
Ah,
Have
okay.
nothing to go with. And even if you then said 750, remember initially we were at supposedly a
Hmm.
thousand and 500.
Right.
We're no longer at that. We're at
Mhm.
1,750. You've already committed to going to split the difference in this particular case.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. Okay.
Right. And rather than split the difference, you can put a condition upon that.
Mm-hmm.
If we can settle today, Greg, I can do 750. Now, you put conditions on it in the form of a timeline also. So I come back to you tomorrow and
Hmm.
I say, oh, you know what, Charlene, I'll accept your offer of 750. Greg, I wish I could do it. That was yesterday's offer. It's off the table now. Now, what have
Ah,
you taught me? You've taught me if I give you a deadline,
hmm.
meet it or lose it.
Right. It's a
Period, point
deadline.
blank,
Yeah.
Yeah, so anyway.
Oh, wow. So a couple of things. So I feel like I have to explain why I said my husband says I'm the worst negotiator. All right. So this could because he might watch this, maybe. I don't know. But so you see this beautiful piano behind us, right? So I
Very
don't,
nice.
yeah, I don't play the piano, but my mother played the piano and she died 32 years ago. And
Oh.
she played the piano beautifully. And of course, growing up as a teenager, I always woke up on Saturday morning to her playing the piano and singing, and it was always gospel music. And it would irritate me to no end because I wanted to sleep in, right? As a teenager, right? And so, but then of course, I was just under 30 when she died, and after that, I would give anything to wake up to hear her play the piano or just sing. And since I've been an adult, I just insist that there is a piano in our household. And so when my husband and I went to buy this piano, we went to one of the university's music programs because they do these big piano
Mhm.
sales. And so we're walking in, and my husband, who is in commercial finance, he says, "Okay, I need you to, don't get too excited about any one piano because we need to negotiate and this and that." I said, "Okay, great. I got it. I'm ready." We walk in there, and we tell the woman we're looking for a piano. You know where this is going.
Yes.
And so she starts playing Amazing Grace on the piano. And I am in a puddle of tears inside of 20 seconds, right? And my husband says, "We just lost any negotiating power we had. Any, it is out the door. Whatever she says that piano is worth, and she may even up the price, she knows we're going to take it." And I thought, well, yeah. So he's like, from now on, you are on your own on negotiations, period. You're just on your own. So he says I am the worst negotiator, and I really can't argue that, in some cases.
I'm
Right.
glad you qualified that in
Yeah.
some cases. And you know what? This comes full circle back to
Hmm.
emotions and displayed
Right.
emotions because you had a reflection back to when your mother played the piano. And at that point in time, your emotions were truly exposed. One
Right.
thing that could have been done at that point in time is you saying something to your husband about, let me excuse myself and exit the negotiation, period, point
Oh,
blank.
okay.
And then he would have had a much stronger position
Mhm.
because you were the one that woman would have focused her attention on because in that
Right.
case, she would have asked you, wow, why did you have such an emotional reaction? And had you given her the story about your mother, so forth and so on, it would have behooved her from a negotiation perspective to keep touching that touch point within
Right.
your emotions to stoke up the fact that whichever piano it was that you were
Mhm.
thinking about purchasing, yes, this
Mhm.
is the one that you really do need to get because I'm sure it too will remind you of your mother. And she would have, I
Yeah.
mean,
It was like, she just reeled
ye-
me in, right? I mean,
yes,
she just reeled me in. That was
exactly,
crazy.
exactly. And
So,
you know
Greg,
what?
yeah.
Well, one other quick thing too, I was going to say, you brought up another very good aspect that people should realize, recognize, and use in a negotiation.
Mhm.
One person, you can have a group of 30 One
Mhm.
person should be the lead negotiator. And before you enter the environment, such as what you and your husband discussed,
Mhm.
you're going to project certain images of yourself, certain
Mhm.
mannerisms of yourself, and that leader of the negotiation should be the one that's doing the talking, and there should be no sidelines
Right.
occurring from the team members, as it were.
Right. Oh,
So,
that's funny. I will tell you where I am good at negotiation most of the time when I buy a car. Yeah,
okay.
not the car that I have now, but the other times because I just fell in love with it and became the emotional buyer again. But most of the time, I will go into a car dealership. I'll say, "This is what I'm looking for. This is what I'm willing to pay. I need your best deal, and I know that Black women get the worst deals, so I'm going to say no to the first three things you give me." Right. And they're so caught off guard that they're like, okay, let's get this woman in a car and get her out of here. Right. And so I can do a pretty good car deal,
Hmm.
because they're going to get three no's before they get a yes, and so
May I
I,
suggest how you might just improve that
yeah.
ever so slightly?
Mhm.
Get their offer first. Because
Uh,
hypothetically, you
uh,
already have a number in your mind and you have a
right.
scenario, which is good,
Mhm.
that you're going to execute in that negotiation series
Right.
slash process.
Uh-huh.
Okay, suppose you wanted to pay 50,000 for the
Mhm.
car. You were willing to pay 50,000.
Mhm.
And hypothetically, they were going to offer you 40,000, a $40,000
Oh,
prize.
okay. So
Get
don't
their
tell it.
always try to get
Yeah.
their offer
Mhm.
first, and then you can still follow the exact same script. The exact same script. And I'll
Right.
tell you something else you did too. I know black women get and I'm paraphrasing,
Yeah.
a worse deal or something of that
Mhm.
nature. You've set them on edge now. You've started going after their emotions, number one. And number two, you've
Mhm.
positioned them into a position where they have to defend your
Right.
perspective. You're
Yeah.
leading that negotiation very beautifully at that particular
Ah.
point.
Well, I heard I was watching I think a late night show and it was the comedian Chris Rock was on and he was talking about a movie that he did and he threw out a number first and they took it and said, "Yes, okay, that's fine." And he said, "If they accept your first number, you were too low." Right.
Hmm.
And I've
Hmm.
never forgotten that, And so I'm like, oh, okay, that's really good to know. So, Greg, how did you become the master negotiator and body language expert?
Okay, I'll answer that question. I just want to put something in real fast.
Yes, of
There's
course.
something called anchoring also,
Uh-huh.
meaning the person that does offer the first number anchors the negotiation at a particular point. So there's value in anchoring by throwing out the first number or something of that nature. And there's also, if you know how to negotiate versus someone that you're negotiating with that's not as good,
Hmm.
you then set the tone right from there. So if somebody sets a high anchor, okay, now it's like, oh, wow, here I am thinking we were at $1,000 and this guy's talking about 1250,
Yeah.
like that. So anyway, just now to
Okay.
your question, how did I become the master negotiator?
Right.
Oh, Charlene, I started off un
Hmm.
not recognizing that I was doing so as a kid at 4 years old. And I
Oh
say
my
4 years
goodness.
old, yeah, because my parents allowed me to shine shoes at the corner bar.
Hmm.
And at that time, I would note how people would respond to me based on my offerings to them. Shoe shine, sir? Like that. No, running into the bar, he wanted to be happy and yada, yada, yada type of thing.
Right.
Then I'd ask other people, sir, your shoes look like they could use a shine so you could look better to the people in the bar. Oh, okay. Like that.
Okay.
I didn't realize I was doing that, but
Mm-hmm.
I was watching my mother and my grandmother
Mm-hmm.
literally, even at the age of 4, negotiate for everything.
Ah.
Everything. And I'll never forget what you talked about car dealerships. One
Uh-huh.
time, oh my goodness, I was at a car dealership. I was 16, I think, 17,
Hmm.
somewhere in that neighborhood. I'd saved up money from working summer jobs to buy my first car.
Hmm.
And I begged my mother to take me to a car dealership. And I think I only had, I don't know, $500, $600 or whatever be the case. And she was saying, you're not going to get a car for that. Oh, mom, please take me. Just take me so we can. Anyway, again, we're at the car dealership and we're talking. Sure enough, I don't have enough money, et cetera, et cetera. So the car salesperson says, and my mother reached into her top. I'll phrase it
Mhm.
like that. And I looked at her, my eyes got wide, the salesperson's eyes got wide, and I thought to myself, oh, mama, I hope you're not getting ready to do what I think you're getting ready to
Uh,
do like that. And the salesperson, I mean, he was excited. And my
uh,
mother pulled out a little more money. And I
uh,
thought, wow, what a tactic. What she did was said, I have a surprise.
mhm.
And watch, I assume she watched the expression
Right.
and pulled out a little bit more money. The salesperson said, well, that's still not enough. She put it away and said, well, that's all we have. Come
Mhm.
on, let's leave. And
Mhm.
I'm like, but mom,
Right. I wanted a card.
exactly. And the salesperson, okay, well, maybe we could do something like that. And my
Mhm.
mother said, do what? And
Mhm.
he said, well, like, maybe we could go ahead and work with your number. Taught me a valuable lesson even then. The takeaway strategy is extremely strong, especially when someone has been surprised with what's going on,
Right.
stoking the emotions,
Mhm.
and then having it taken away from them in the form of what they think they now have, a sale in this particular situation.
Ah.
So, how did I become a master negotiator? I observed interactions, personal interactions, number one. And my gosh, over the years, I read all kinds of books on negotiations.
Right.
And before I left corporate America, I was a VP of one division of an organization. My division had the highest sales in the company. And the president asked me, how in the world is your division outpacing everyone else? And I said, well, I've taught my people how to negotiate better. And he said, teach the rest of the corporation how to do so. I was like, okay, which
Mhm.
led me to learn more about
Right.
negotiation. The body language aspect came about. I was a TV news contributor,
Mhm.
and I was talking about negotiations, but talking about the body language aspect also that was involved in reading body language and negotiations. And I had learned a lot about body language because it's so intertwined with negotiation. They, the network, was the ones that um, branded me as a body language expert.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. And I told a friend of mine, a close associate that was literally internationally known about it. And he said, go with it. So my
Right.
moniker then became, yeah, my moniker then became the master negotiator, which it had already been, and body language expert.
Right.
And I went to Harvard to take classes and things of that
Mhm.
nature too about negotiations. But
Right.
that's a long answer to a short question.
Right, right. Yeah, nice way to drop in that little Harvard connection. But
Yeah, well,
yeah, we only have so much time, so I can't cover why your parents let you be in a bar at 4, but so that'll have to be another conversation. But I do want to get to our most important conversation, which is really around the individual and around, your internal value, right? And one of the things that I've noticed in my time, both as a corporate executive, as a leader, and as a coach, is that one, that people use the term imposter syndrome a lot,
mm,
but it's really gets down to internal worth and internal value, and so most people who follow me know that I'm very much about self-belief, self-leadership, self-empowerment, and my first book, of course, was called You Are Enough, and the reason for that is
a very
because
good one, by the way.
oh, thank you. And of course, I will plug your books and when we air this because you've got too many for me to be able to name, but they're great. And
Thank you.
and I was, I think being a minority woman, climbing a corporate ladder in very male oriented industries, right? It was I was always striving. I was to be enough, right? To be seen as enough. And it wasn't until I was 53 that I realized that I was always enough. And when I hit that point and realized it, it changed my life. And so one of the last question in the series with everybody that I am in conversation with is tell us about the moment or the journey or the time, whatever it was that you realized or could say to yourself, I am enough.
First of all, Charlene, that's a question that I've pondered at
Mhm.
many different stages in my life because, like you said, imposter syndrome is real to the degree that someone believes of themselves that it is so.
Right.
The internal value that we have is one that we constantly reassess, reevaluate, and then recalculate based on the interactions we have with others.
Mhm.
And to the degree that we want to think one way or another, we can. And thus, since we're making the choice anyway, why
Mhm.
not think that we are enough in any particular situation at any particular point in time? But I digress.
Mhm.
I actually came to that point when I left
Mhm.
the last corporation that I worked for that I spoke about a moment ago. And I thought to myself, I want to start my own business. That had been a goal of mine for many a years. This is the 32nd year that I've been in business.
Oh my
And
God.
the challenge I had within myself
Mhm.
was thinking, am I enough to do so? And
Mhm.
I said to myself, hmm, I'm enough for right now.
Ah.
And that was the source of inner motivation that I
Mhm.
used to propel me further,
Mhm.
deeper towards moving at the dreams that I had and the goals I had set for myself. So I simply say that to say I still reassess to what degree I am enough for any particular situation. And I come back to that same thought process. I'm enough for right now,
Ah,
because in the future I'll continue to grow.
right.
Oh, at what point will I not be enough? Most likely when I die.
Right.
So
Yeah.
until then, I will be enough.
So, do you think that being an entrepreneur made it easier for you to believe that you are enough? And I'm asking that question because so often we believe that we aren't enough because the people around us make us feel that way. I didn't get that promotion um, because I wasn't enough. I didn't get that great assignment, even though I've been working my tail off, because I wasn't enough of something, right? When politics could have been involved, all kinds of things. So do you think that your entrepreneurial journey helped you in that way?
Well, I would love to answer that question, but you said the prior one was the last one, so I can't. No, no, no. No.
My show, my rules. So,
Exactly, exactly, exactly. Um, the entrepreneurial route, again, was something I had aspired to from the
Mhm.
time I was literally a kid. At 4 years old, I was shining shoes, making money.
You
And there was
are.
something about the business aspect that
Mhm.
just resonated with me. So, again, people will only do to you that which you allow them to do. That
Right.
also means they'll only control your mind, your thought process to the degree you give them the
Mhm.
power to do so. And thus, okay, so what? You didn't get that promotion. Now, how you're going to internalize that will determine how you react to it. Because one way you could react is to say, goodbye, corporation, I'm moving on.
Right.
Or you could say,
Right.
I'll stay here and see what happens the next time, or something of
Right.
that.
Right.
The point is, I never, ever, ever adopt the mindset that
Mhm.
I can't do something to improve my plight. I don't care what
Ah,
it is. I adopt that
right.
mindset because in so doing, that means I'm in
Right.
control of me. You
Right.
could tell me I'm stupid, I'm dumb, which is a lot of people told me that. And I told
Mhm.
you at the onset of this, here
Right.
I am now getting ready to get my doctorate. And I was told
Right.
throughout my whole life I was stupid, I was dumb, I would never amount to anything. And
Mhm.
when I was young, I was dumb enough to believe that. But
Mhm.
then as I grew older, I just ejected those thought processes.
Right.
And it's me living in my own mind because I am the captain of my soul.
Ah, beautiful, beautiful. We're going to end there, even though I could have so many more questions, but I don't want to take away from this mic drop moment that you just gave us. So, Greg, thank you so much. This has really been great. Every conversation with you is great now that I'm a little self-conscious, but that's okay. I'll get over it. But this has been great. It's been really great to catch up with you again.
And you know what, Charlene? I resonate more so with some people than
Mhm.
others. We all do.
Right.
And you're someone because of the gentleness of your soul, the
Hmm.
need to give others information, insights that they can use to improve the plights of their lives is
Hmm.
something that allows me to resonate even more so with you. So it's been my honor to share this time with you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Mhm.
Well, I wish you the best in your business and getting your PhD. And I should tell you that you have inspired me because I had been thinking about going back to school. I've always wanted to study human behavior, psychology, etc. And, I think to myself, I'm about to turn 61
I
and
don't believe it. I don't believe it, but go ahead.
I know, I know. Thank goodness for those genes. Well, one good thing my father ever did. But anyway, um, and I was thinking, I'm just too old to go back to school. And and that little voice on my shoulder, my saboteur, I tell her, her name's Liza, I tell her to go away, that um, I am not too old to go back to school. And when you said you were getting your PhD, I thought, just in that little few seconds that we talked, I thought, maybe it is time for me to do that.
There you go. There
Right?
you go. Exactly.
Right.
By the way, to your point,
Mhm.
by chance, do you have a termination date whereby you're checking out?
Well, not a predetermined one that I
Yeah,
know about, but
yeah,
and I thought about that, and I thought, well, so what if I go while I'm getting that degree, right? What's wrong with that? You know, so it can only make you better, right?
exactly.
Only make you better. So, and I'm
Exactly.
insanely curious, and I pretend like I have way more time than I do, but I am the master of my time, right?
There you go. And
Ah,
that's the mindset. That's
that's
the
mine.
mindset. And let me know when you start after that doctorate,
I
okay?
will. I will. I have like an hour this afternoon, and so I'm going to start researching programs. That's what I'm going to do.
Sounds like a plan for
Yeah,
sure.
exactly.
Thank you,
Thank you, Greg.
Charlene.
It's good to see you. Bye-bye.
Pleasure's mine. Take care now. Bye-bye.